Welcome. I'm Lee Cowan, and this is Here Comes the Sun, a closer look at some of the people, places, and things we bring you every weekend on Sunday morning. Superstar Alicia Keys is known for countless pop hits, many of which make it into her newest endeavor, an off-Broadway show loosely based on her life, titled Hell's Kitchen. She explained the process of creating the show to our Kelefa Sanneh.
For Keys, it's been a labor of love, and she says she's been laboring.
It's hard. Work is hard.
Did you ever lose faith that this would actually work?
Nope.
Never?
Mm-mm.
You're just like, well, here we are, it's year 7, we're just continuing to grind.
I don't know, I didn't doubt the process.
Hell's Kitchen is named for the New York neighborhood where she lived as a kid. Geographically, it's just a few feet from Broadway, but to Keys, it felt much farther.
When I lived there, it was how it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of desolation there. There was a lot of, drug addiction there. There was a lot of prostitution there. It was side by side with the desolation and the possibility, and I think that's what kind of gave me a lot of hunger and grit.
Later in the show, Alicia Keys on a gift that some non-New Yorkers might just take away from her musical.
I think that humanity is what you're gonna really take, and then you're gonna feel an extra kindred spirit to the city. And you are an honorary New Yorker when you come to Hell's Kitchen. You get to just be from New York for that moment. You get to feel the energy of it, feel some of that grit and strength and fire.
Alicia Keys' roots might be in New York City, but for our next story, we travel across the globe to Sardinia, Italy, where Seth Doane got a taste of a unique flatbread that's rooted in the culture there.
Carasau is a crunchy bread. The actual name comes from the word carasare, which is a Sardinian word. It means to toast it.
Camilla Crisponi is the third generation running her family's elegant, food-focused hotel, Sugolagone, tucked in the mountains. Here, diners can see how pane carasau has been cooked for centuries. It's said to date back as far as the Bronze Age, thousands of years ago.
How do you use this kind of bread?
It goes very well with pretty much any dishes. We use it if it was a spoon.
That's all coming up right here on Here Comes the Sun. 15-time Grammy winner Alicia Keys is taking her talent now to a different kind of stage. The pop star's written her first off-Broadway musical, more than 13 years in the making. It's called Hell's Kitchen, the same neighborhood Keys called her home growing up in New York City. She sat down with our Kelefa Sanneh.
This is what I've been dreaming about the whole time. And we're here, and now I have my own key card. Opens up all the doors.
For more than a dozen years, pop star Alicia Keys has been working on a musical.
Then after Empire Up, we're gonna work on it.
Now, Hell's Kitchen is being performed here at the Public Theater in New York.
What took so long?
Word. Good things take time. We've been working on this since even before my first son was born. Egypt just turned 13.
He's never known a mom who's not working on this show.
Facts. I was trying to figure out, well, Dad, maybe Hell's Kitchen is my first kid.
For Keys, it's been a labor of love, and she says she's been laboring.
It's hard. Work is hard.
Did you ever lose faith that this would actually work?
Nope.
Never?
Mm-mm.
You're just like, well, here we are, it's year 7, we're just continuing to grind.
I don't know, I didn't doubt the process.
Hell's Kitchen is named for the New York neighborhood where she lived as a kid. Geographically, it's just a few feet from Broadway, but to Keys, it felt much farther.
When I lived there, it was how it sounds. There was a lot of desolation there. There was a lot of, drug addiction there. There was a lot of prostitution there. It was side by side with the desolation and the possibility, and I think that's what kind of gave me a lot of hunger and grit.
The musical is narrated by 17-year-old Allie, who loves music, loves a boy, and tries to love her mother.
What's the biggest difference between you and this character, Allie, that you created?
Maybe her mama lets her get away with a little more back talk than my mama would have let me get away with.
Keys says the show is only loosely based on her own life story.
There's no way Alicia Keys only started playing piano when she was 17.
That's true. I started playing piano as 7.
And by 12, she was composing songs. By 15, she had a recording contract. And at 20, a #1 record. Hell's Kitchen includes most of her biggest hits, along with 4 new songs.
Is it a little bit like putting together a set list?
Right.
There's some songs that's got to go in the show no matter what.
For sure. I think that it's all about balance.
Some of her most beloved songs have been rearranged or recontextualized.
When you hear that there's a musical about a 17-year-old girl and teenage love affair is going to be in the musical, you're thinking one thing, turns out to be something a little different.
Facts. Thank you, brother. See, you understand.
Keys says she's been involved in everything.
What was it like to try to find the actress that could play the character that is loosely based on you?
Thank you. You can't pretend to be from New York City if you don't understand the nuances of it. It just won't work. And so I have definitely been a major pain in the ass to all the casting agents. The pain in the assness is through the roof.
21-year-old Malia Joy Moon is making her professional theater debut. Keys also pays close attention to who's in the audience.
Who are you most nervous about seeing this show?
Well, my mama just saw it.
Can we put it on the marquee? What does she say?
Mama loves it. Can we put that out?
Absolutely. Can't put it on TV, but you can put it on the marquee. We're here on Broadway. This place is famous because they have a collection of posters for shows that flop.
For shows that died young.
Former New York Times theater critic Ben Brantley has seen clips of Hell's Kitchen, but with the show still in previews, the theater did not make a ticket available to him.
So when you heard that the star Alicia Keys was working on a musical, partly based on her own life, what was your reaction?
Well, I mean, her voice has certainly been part of the oral wallpaper of my life. It is a great selling point, and that's the lure.
There is a term for shows that are built around pop hits: jukebox musicals.
When I was using that in the early days, when they were first emerging in droves, I suppose I used it, if not with contempt, then at least with cynicism, because it seemed like such a lazy way to put a show together.
Work on it in the new key. Is first or gospel?
He says the fact that Hell's Kitchen changes up some of the most familiar songs to better fit the plot might help de-jukeboxify the show.
We're not maximizing some of those additional sounds that kind of help it grow and make it be sick.
I like it that she's doing it herself. I like it when familiar songs sound fresh. You'd like to think that, especially her fan base, will have listened to those songs so often that they may be sort of startled.
Brantley identifies 2001 as the beginning of the jukebox musical era.
The one that you can blame a lot of really bad stuff on is Mamma Mia, which was ABBA.
ABBA.
But it was a huge hit that took the ABBA songbook and then just jimmied it into a kind of a sweet soap opera-ish plot. It was ridiculous, it was really tacky, and when I saw it in New York, I loved it, because it opened just after 9/11. And there was obviously a great sense of release for the people listening to this music, and the mindlessness of it.
He says that musicals have been borrowing from pop music for decades, although in the old days, musicals were pop music.
Young adults in the 1950s or late 1940s would be singing along with Some Enchanted Evening from South Pacific.
And a lot of the top-selling albums in those eras
were original
Broadway, original cast
yes,
recordings.
Exactly.
Another kind of jukebox musical would be a concept album that someone's turned into a full-fledged musical.
Jesus Christ Superstar actually started as an album.
Do you think the jukebox musical era has been good overall for Broadway and for musicals?
Now, my friend and current Times critic Jesse Green calls the jukebox musical the cockroach of musicals. I don't feel that way. I did at one point, but you know, I kind of learned to stop worrying and love the jukebox selectively.
The Cockroach, another New York classic.
Yes, yes. Cultural cannibalizing cockroaches.
Hell's Kitchen might be a different kind of jukebox musical, but it's got a familiar destination in mind. Ben Brantley says it's practically preordained to wind up on Broadway.
It's the most expensive production the public has ever mounted.
Oh, really?
From what I've seen, it looks like a pretty big production. But it seems to me, I mean, if people say they're not thinking it's going to Broadway, they're lying. I think pretty much everyone assumes it will transfer.
Including Alicia Keys.
The whole run is sold out.
Yes, the public theater.
Is it important to you that this show eventually might move 40 blocks north to Broadway?
My eyes are definitely on that. It would be a dream come true, really.
Up next, an exclusive excerpt from Kelefa Sanneh's chat with Alicia Keys, something you can only see right here on Here Comes the Sun. Stay with us.
I think a lot of people, of course, are going to assume that this is my life story. And it was definitely influenced by my experiences.
As promised, here's more from Alicia Keys and Kelefa Sanneh.
When you're talking about the building blocks of this show, it seems like one other element that's really important is you happen to be someone that has a bunch of songs that people love. Right?
That's cool.
You
that
got
works.
You got some big hits. And some of those songs find their way into the show. Was that something you were thinking about from the beginning, that you knew that you wanted some of these songs to be in the show?
The most important part about the songs in the show that I love the most is that, you know, you're only gonna meet Allie in her 17th year. You will only see her at 17.
Right.
She does not become whatever. You only see the journey of who she is to just find who she is in that 17th year.
Right.
Which I think is something we could all really relate to. And so the music was intentionally done to really weave through it in a way that's quite unexpected.
Yeah.
I think you hear a lot of the songs. There are many new songs that I wrote specifically for this. And some of the songs that maybe you're hoping to hear that you know, you're hearing them for sure in a way you've never heard them before.
Yeah.
I know that because as the songwriter, I never heard them like this before. And so a lot of times as we were putting the songs together, I would say, wow, what made me not think about doing this song like this ever in my life? I just hadn't thought about it before, you know, and so there's some very special moments that I think come as big surprises because they're not done in the way that you would expect them to be. And so the new music is just as dynamic, and it's really exciting to be able to kind of introduce new songs through this medium. But you know, I think a lot of people, of course, are gonna assume that this is my life story. And it was definitely influenced by my experiences, for sure. And I think that's why you're gonna feel so much truth and realness and connection to the characters, because these are real people that affected my life in some way or another. But the story itself is not autobiographical, it's not point by point, play by play. So don't come up to me talking about, so did your dad write If I Ain't Got You?
You might be owing some royalty checks if that's the case.
Don't come up to me asking me that.
But is it, I mean, that's a question people ask about songs too, right? Like as listeners, as fans, we often assume that a song that we hear is kind of autobiographical.
Yeah.
And often the answer is
yes.
Kinda, sorta.
In so many ways, yes. I don't think you can write a song that you don't understand. You know what I mean? Does it mean 1000% it's totally everything? Maybe. A lot of my songs, yes, they are. And I think that's the spirit that comes through in the show that you do feel for sure. You do feel that earnestness, that honesty, that genuine experience. And my songs, I am a writer that writes from real life experience because I only can relate to emotion. So in that case, yes. But I think relating that to this particular Hell's Kitchen piece, you know, there is, I think sometimes you have to be able to relate to the circumstance for it to ring true.
What was the first thing that you knew for sure about this show?
That's a good question. What's the first thing I knew for sure about this show? I knew for sure that it was going to present a certain energy that I'm not sure people are familiar with. Growing up in New York City is a very specific experience. And if you have not grown up in New York City, particularly, and there's different sides in New York City.
Of course.
You know, you have very financial district New York City, you have very Harlem New York City, you have very LES Lower East Side New York City, you have Brooklyn, you have Bronx, you have all these different sides that reflect different parts of the culture of New York City. And I think this Hell's Kitchen area is its own unique world that I personally haven't seen a lot of pieces on, you know, and so I felt like that was going to provide it. It's very unique, it's very diverse, it's very mixed. I think you see that reflected in the cast as well. You're going to see a large variety of styles of people, and that is what I think makes it really interesting. And I'm grateful that I grew up like that because it gave me perspective that I think, you know, just helped me to see the world as a much more dynamic place.
What do you think viewers that don't know anything about New York will take away from this?
You know, I think that New York is such a You know, it's such a melting pot. It's such a place that people love to come to. Such a unique place. There's so much to do here. There's so much to experience. You do get to see, you know, such a diversity of people, smells, places, food, styles, dress, you know, socioeconomic backgrounds. You got all types of things that, you know, there's just no limit to the culture, to the music that you hear, the sounds. And so I think that really, in a lot of ways, the city represents like our dreams, the things that we are hoping to achieve. And I feel like New York City really does have that fabric built into it. So even if you're not from New York City, by the time you see this piece, you are gonna feel connected to it. Because the thing is, it kind of doesn't always matter where we are. We have these experiences regardless. And so I think that humanity is what you're gonna really take, and then you're gonna feel extra kindred spirit to the city. And you are an honorary New Yorker when you come to Hell's Kitchen. You get to just be from New York for that moment. You get to feel the energy of it, feel some of that grit and strength and fire.
Well, it's funny to sit here and from one perspective, you're someone who achieved anything one could ever want to achieve in music, but in theater, there's a sense in which you're still a kid with a dream.
Facts. And actually, this show is all about that. It's about the dreams that we have, and whether we achieve them or not, we have them, and it's important, you know? So I think dreams are a big part of this piece. But I am a kid with a dream. Aren't we all a kid with a dream? Aren't we all, Allie? Like...
Up next, breaking bread. Welcome back. Focaccia, ciabatta, Italy's known for all kinds of delicious fluffy breads. But on the island of Sardinia, they take a non-traditional twist, specializing in a crunchy flatbread instead. Seth Doane took a visit.
To call this flatbread typical or traditional does not quite capture how central it is to culinary life in Sardinia. This Italian island is known geographically for its beaches and emerald sapphire sea, and gastronomically for this bread, pane carasau. It accompanies other Sardinian staples, pecorino cheese, porcedu or suckling pig, and the red wine carasau.
Pane carasau is a crunchy bread. The actual name comes from the word carasare, which is a Sardinian word. It means to toast it.
Camilla Crisponi is the third generation running her family's elegant, food-focused hotel, Sugolagone, tucked in the mountains. Here, diners can see how pane carasau has been cooked for centuries. It's said to date back as far as the Bronze Age, thousands of years ago.
How do you use this kind of bread?
It goes very well with pretty much any dishes. We use it if it was like a spoon.
Nicole Abrashami is visiting from Los Angeles.
Since we've been in Sardinia, it's at every table.
What do you think of it?
Incredible. It's addictive.
You want to bring it to my customers?
If she needs her fix back in LA, there's a restaurant, Carasau, owned by Vincenzo Porcu.
Prego, signorina.
He imports the bread from Sardinia-based Giulio Buloni.
I always dream to see all the production, to start to the end.
Katia Buloni is the second-generation owner.
Very hot.
She manages exports and, yes, some questions at global food fairs.
The first time I come to China, a man come in the stand and look at the bread on the left, on the right, tell me, what is this bread? It's not possible. It's bread.
The dough is made of semolina, salt, water, and yeast. And after being baked, the soft, hollow bread rises. It's cut and then cooked again. It can last for up to a year, which gets us to its origins as a bread for shepherds.
They take this bread because they stay many months out of home with the animals in the campagna.
In the countryside?
In the country, yes.
Inland, modern-day shepherds Stefano Orefice and his partner Gabriella Giusti milk their sheep, pecore in Italian, to make their own pecorino cheese. And while they don't roam as much as shepherds once did, Orefice told us,
Pane carasau.
We always have pane carasau.
There is so many Italian restaurants all around, but more or less, it's always the same food. Sardinian food, they never know about it.
Italy is not complete without Sardinia, Vincenzo Porcu notes. which is why he wanted to promote this crackly, crunchy part of his childhood.
Pane carasau, toasted with a little bit of olive oil.
Do you get tired of explaining it?
No, ever. I'm very proud where I come from. I like to spread our culture.
This bread is crispy yet flexible, part of a breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It can be as a side or on its own. The star.
I'm Lee Cowan. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you right here next time on Here Comes the Sun.